I'm Zelda and I have knee-length hair and I wrote a whole book about it. You can get my book, The Ultimate Guidebook to Growing Long Healthy Hair, on Amazon, including paperback, Kindle, and for free on Kindle Unlimited. When I was filming my last hair care video, I was just kind of summarizing my general routine and the tips and tricks I thought I knew, but then when I was researching, I realized I was doing a lot of stuff that was incorrect or just not supported by science. So for my book, I found more than 40 scientific research papers to back up almost every tip and trick that I'm about to share with you. So I have my book here, and to start out, I think it's important to understand what is hair. Hair is basically just a long chain of dead protein. This is the same type of protein that you can find in things like nails, claws, and even things like porcupine quills. And no, hair is not living and it cannot really be changed once it exits the follicle. And the follicle is where your hair grows from, right at the top. And I have a lot more detail in my book, by the way, like hand-drawn diagrams, tip bubbles, and literally pages worth of information that would take me too long to explain in this video. So I highly recommend seeing my book if you want to know every single little tip and explanation. And I even explained the 3 layers of the hair shaft, but for today's video, I'm only going to explain the cuticle, which is the outside layer of the hair shaft. This is like a glassy protective shield on your hair, and this is where most damage will often occur, where you'll see things like split ends, and you can even feel the cuticle layer. Just grab a strand of hair and run your finger down it. What you are feeling is the cuticle, and you may notice some sections are smoother than others, while other sections towards the end might feel rougher, and this is damage. There isn't technically any way to repair the cuticle layer, but you can help kind of mend it back together, kind of like gluing pieces of paper together. With things like protein treatments, we can kind of help mend the cuticle layer and repair some of this damage. And there is a lot of different vocabulary that goes into hair care, but let me just summarize some of them. Porosity is the rate at which water enters and exits your hair shaft. This affects things like moisture and hydration, in which moisture is basically the water and oil that's sitting on the outside of your cuticle, while hydration is the water and oil that is deep inside underneath the cuticle layer. Both of these things, moisture and hydration, are equally important to having healthy, hydrated hair. And this porosity is going to be affected by how much damage your cuticle layer has. Think of it like a pine cone. When the pine cone is opened, a lot of water can enter inside, but if the pine cone is sealed closed, then water isn't going to be able to penetrate and exit as easily. This same type of thing is happening with these scales in the cuticle layer. Your hair is going to have different moisture needs depending on whether it's low, normal, or high porosity. But all you really need to do is ask yourself these 2 questions. 1. How quickly does water soak into your hair upon stepping into the shower? If it takes a long time for your hair to get wet in the shower, this probably means you have low porosity. Or if your hair gets wet super easily, like within less than 30 seconds, you probably have high porosity. Number 2, how quickly does your hair dry upon stepping out of the shower? If it takes really long for your hair to dry, again, this is probably low porosity. But if it takes less than 30 minutes basically for most of your hair to dry, this is probably high porosity. But if you answered somewhere in the middle of these 2 questions, then obviously that probably means you have normal porosity. And it's totally possible to have all 3 types of porosity in one head. So you should care for each section with different needs. Like for example, my ends are usually a little more damaged than my fresh hair up here, so I end up having to use a lot more oil and moisture and hydration on my ends versus up here. You can also do the water cup test, but that does take a little bit longer. So either just pause to read my book and we will just go on to the next thing. Basically, just know that if you have low porosity hair, you have to be careful with not overloading your hair with too much moisture and hydration, because your cuticle layer is already super tight and already doesn't want to allow water to enter or exit. However, if you have high porosity hair, then moisture is going to enter and exit very easily, and you can probably get away with using a lot more moisture and hydration like oil or leave-in conditioning sprays, and that will help restore a healthy moisture balance in your hair. We can also test our hair's protein with the stretch test. First, slightly dampen your hair with a spray bottle or a damp hairbrush. You can either pluck off a fresh strand of hair, or if your hair is long enough like mine, you can just take a strand and look at it directly without having to pluck it. But either way, just grab a strand of hair and hold it between your fingers. Now we're just going to gently stretch the hair and just see what it does. You probably can't really see this, but I'm just gonna stretching my hair. If your hair stretches about 20 to 30% of the original length and returns to its original length with barely any warping or elongation, this means you have a good moisture and protein balance and should maintain your current hair care. If your hair stretches a lot but doesn't return to its normal length and shape, coils up like a spring, or it's unusually stretchy without snapping, it probably means you need protein. If your hair stretches less than 20% and quickly breaks, this probably means you need moisture. And maybe for good measure, I would recommend a little bit of protein in there as well. Now, probably the biggest section of my book actually talks about hair washing and how to do it safely. I personally don't believe that you should wash your hair too frequently. And while this is good for the scalp, such as if you have things like dandruff or psoriasis or other type of skin conditions on your scalp, then you are probably the type of person who needs to wash your hair more frequently. However, if you rarely engage in activities or exercises that cause you to sweat, or you don't use a lot of products or oils, or your scalp tends to feel dry, and you don't have a history of dandruff, psoriasis, or other scalp conditions, then you do not need to wash your hair as frequently, because your hair actually benefits from having more moisture, especially that natural sebum that your hair, your scalp, your body is going to produce the perfect natural oil that your hair needs. And if you keep washing away this natural oil too much, then you're not only is your hair going to get really dry, but your scalp can also get dry. But of course, with that being said, your washing frequency needs to be personalized to your schedule. Like for example, if you're an athletic swimmer and you're in chlorinated pools all the time, then obviously you need to wash your hair more frequently. Basically, just don't wash your hair more than is necessary. You don't want to wash it so little that you end up with things like dandruff and buildup, but you also don't want to wash it so much that you strip away the natural moisture and oils in your hair shaft. There are literally about 20 different topics I didn't even get to touch on in this video, but what I'm sure you're probably most curious about is how do you actually force your hair to grow faster? First, I just want to set your expectations realistically, okay? There is nothing fast about hair growth. On average, hair grows about 1/2 inch or 1 centimeter every month. And that is going to change all the time. Sometimes it's going to be faster, sometimes it's going to be slower, depending on things like hormones, diet, exercise. So any influencers or companies trying to tell you otherwise and sell you products that are like 100% proven crazy hair growth or like 12 inches overnight or something like that, just don't even click on those, okay? They are only hunting for your money. Only 100% proven way to make your hair grow is to stop messing with it so much. This is my biggest tip that I have. If you take nothing else away from this video, just take away the fact that you need to stop thinking about your hair so much. While I have used the following growth techniques I'm about to talk about, I do so rarely. The way that I have achieved knee-length hair is not with any secret product or special technique. The way that I have achieved knee-length hair is by letting it be and letting my hair do its own thing. I know it's not fun to hear that you just need to be patient. It's like, yeah, okay, whatever. I get it, but listen, it's just the truth. Just forget about your hair, essentially. And then a month later, you're gonna look at it and be surprised by how much grew. But anyways, what you actually came here to hear about, number 1, the inversion method. Lean your body over something like a chair so that your scalp is the lowest thing to the ground. This will already start to increase blood flow to your head. Then start massaging your scalp as well. You can even add a nice oil to this to help moisturize your scalp and hair. This will really get your blood flow going and it should feel nice and tingly. That increased blood flow helps kind of wake up your follicles and improve your hair growth speed. Don't do this for any more than 5 minutes, and when you get back up, make sure you do so slowly because this can kind of mess with your blood pressure to go from your head and back down. So just be careful and go slow with it. And also probably don't do the inversion method if you have anything like blood pressure problems. Techniques like these will not work forever. Eventually, your follicles will become used to the increased blood flow and they will stop producing more hair. So in order to do the inversion method effectively, you should only use it for about a week at a time before giving yourself a couple months rest. Personally, I don't actually do the inversion method all that often. What I actually prefer to do is something much easier, which is just scalp oiling and massaging. Just use a warm oil, apply it to your fingertips, and start massaging your scalp. I just do this for about 5 to 10 minutes. You'll feel your scalp get nice and tingly. Sometimes I just do this in the shower. Sometimes I'll leave the oil on for about 30 minutes before doing my regular wash routine. Plus, not to mention, it's just kind of easier if you're lazy like me and you don't want to like do a handstand basically to do the inversion method. You don't gotta get upside down and all that crazy stuff. Just simply massage your scalp sitting up. So number 3, the last proven tip to make your hair grow faster is to simply take supplements. But truthfully, this doesn't work for everybody because if you already have a well-balanced diet, then you're probably already getting everything you need from your diet and you won't need supplements. But for most of us with a Western diet that doesn't have a lot of fruits and veggies, you will probably benefit from supplements like biotin. More research is needed to directly prove if biotin can cause more hair growth, but some studies suggest that it can help improve the strength and condition of your hair. I mean, biotin is usually an important ingredient in making hair protein, but there are other studies that show negligible effects in otherwise healthy individuals. So again, I recommend just trying it out. I just take general women's multivitamins, and women specifically are usually the type to include biotin in them already. Also, by getting a multivitamin, you can get a lot of different things that support hair growth, such as vitamin D, iron, zinc, and omega-3 fatty acids, which have all been linked to healthy and fast hair growth. Simply put, because hair is not immediately necessary for survival, your body will prioritize other functions in times of deficiencies. You want to make sure your body has plenty of vitamins and minerals so that it has extra left over to give to your hair. But actually, you know what? If you don't want to spend any money and still get all of this information, I will actually be making individualized videos for every single topic in my book. This is my first ever book, so it's not perfect by any means. It could still use a lot of work. If I had like another year to spend on it, then I could. And it's not even like that long, but it has so much information packed into just this little book. Like, it won't even take you that long to read, but you are getting so much information, all of my tips and tricks, all the new things I learned from reading so many scientific papers, that is all in here, like in every single sentence. I promise you, you will for sure learn at least a few things from reading my book. And thank you so much for watching and supporting, leaving a like, and leaving a comment for the algorithm. Thank you.